Hi there. Welcome to another edition of Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. My name is Doug Wagner. I'm going to introduce the gentleman to my right here to start things off. Jonas Everett is a wealth advisor with over 31 years of experience in the investment industry. Jonas, how you doing today?
Great, Doug. How you doing?
Doing
Got my
very
Diet
well.
Mountain Dew. I'm ready to go today.
Diet
Not
Mountain Dew and other
Thunder.
stuff.
I'm not going cheap on my soft drinks either. I'm not going to switch to Mountain Thunder or Morning Lightning or any generic stuff. I want my Mountain Dew.
Gotta have it. No, I understand that completely. Good. Let's go. It sounds like you're rip-roaring ready to go. Elias Randall is here as well, Vice President of Wealth Advisors, Certified Exit Planning Advisor, and the new sheriff in town. Elias, I would imagine you pre-caffeinated for this. Is that what I'm thinking, maybe?
I have had my my afternoon cup of coffee, so I am ready.
There you go. Let's get this on. And a wealth advisor, certified financial planner, professional CFP with over 11 years of experience in the investment industry, a neighbor of mine. He's also Dr. Casey Mushrush.
Just you, Doug.
How are you today?
I'm doing excellent. We've
Good
got all sorts of really fun things that have been happening around the neighborhood. So, kids, it's pool time. So taking the kids out to the pool, and boy, that's been an experience.
It
does take a minimum of two parents for our family, because one of them is solely focused on just chasing Owen around.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause, I mean, he falls down. He's face down in the pool. So.
Yeah. You know, that's not something you want,
Nope.
water wings or not. So, yeah, it's interesting because then everything else, as much as rain and the heat and humidity, then it cools off and the grass just growing like crazy. It really is something else. You know what? Maybe your household is like this, where there's all sorts of chaos and you just don't have enough time to get everything you need to get done.
Hang on. Did you just describe chaos right after I talked about my household? Is
No,
that
no,
what
no.
I just heard?
Said maybe their household is just chaos.
I feel like there's a little bit of a
No,
parallel
no,
that's happening
Believe me.
over on there.
Your home is a well-oiled machine. The trains
You don't
run
need
on
to
time.
tell lies. You don't need to tell lies like that. It is chaotic, and I love every minute of it.
The idea is that everybody's household runs differently, and everybody's finances run differently, and everybody's retirement runs differently. If you are like most Americans, you don't know if you're ready for retirement. Get in touch with my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. You can go to their website, premieriwm.com. From there, you just answer a few questions. After clicking on the tab that says Get Started, they'll provide for you, out of the answers that you give, a one-page Premier Vision document. And this is something that is tailored to your specific ideas and ideals. From there, they'll work with you to dig down even deeper so that they can help you find when you're ready for retirement, what you need to do in order to get ready for retirement, or maybe for your kids' education, or maybe that dream purchase you have in the future. Premier Investments and Wealth Management website at premieriwm.com is a perfect place to get started. Or if you want to call, you can make your appointment today, 800-383-6590. By the way, that Premier Investments and Wealth Management Premier Vision document that comes with free, no obligation meeting. They'll come to you, you can come to them, or they'll just meet over the internet. Doesn't matter where. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, again, named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Team. Elias, we'll start off with a question for you from Cheryl, who says, I recently inherited a large IRA from my mom. I know I have to take some money out each year and have the full account depleted at the end of 10 years. I'm 61 and still working, so my concern is that the extra income will put me over the IRMAA threshold for Medicare. Would it make sense to take the entire account balance before I reach that point and just take a bigger tax hit now, or what is the best strategy? Explain it just real quick, IRMAA threshold.
IRMAA is short for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, and it relates to Medicare premiums. The other important factor to know is it has a 2-year look back. So this year is 2026. Mm-hmm. So Medicare premiums are based on income in 2024.
Okay.
So it's 2-year look back, and it can increase your premium depending on income. IRMAA is one consideration to think about in this topic. I don't know that would be the only thing I would think about. Actually, I do know it wouldn't be the only thing I would think about if this were the project at hand here. So a couple things. At 61, you won't be applying to Medicare until you're 65 in most situations. So Cheryl does have a couple years left. And a mistake a lot of people make is just focusing on avoiding IRMAA, and then you can actually trigger a much larger tax bill by doing that. Now, the extra surcharge is a cost, so you could call it a pseudo tax for the extra payments you're going to make to have your Medicare. Here's some moving parts to think about. Every dollar withdrawn from a traditional inherited IRA is taxable as ordinary income. So if you were to do what Cheryl's talking about and take the entire balance in 1 year, depending on the balance, you could have a significantly higher tax bill and be in a much higher tax bracket than spreading this out over a 10-year period. In general, the surcharges you pay for your Medicare premiums would be less than income tax that you would have to pay. Some other questions to consider. How large is the inherited IRA? What are you currently paying in taxes? When do you plan to retire? Will your income drop significantly after retirement? And then how much time is there before you're actually eligible for Medicare? I think a good question to ask Cheryl with this inheritance, are you thinking about just retiring fully now because of this? That is a life event that sometimes does trigger an earlier than expected retirement. Someone's planning on working until 65. They receive an inherited IRA from somebody. You have to take the money out, either a required withdrawal for the year or you have to spread it out over 10 years. So sometimes it does trigger a planning opportunity where we start to say, well, we might just go ahead and retire. I think the key takeaway here, though, is don't let the tail wag the dog. Don't make a decision just based on avoiding the extra surcharges on your Medicare premiums. This is a decision that needs to be made with several moving parts factored in, and it should also fit into your overall goals and financial planning work that you've already done, right? We have a new asset. We have an inherited IRA. We know we have to take a withdrawal once a year. The longest we can keep it is 10 years. So what situation makes the most sense? And so a lot of times, if you do the right work and you're proactive, you can back into those numbers. So the key takeaway is there's more to consider than the extra cost on the Medicare premiums.
You know, it's something where if you have a financial advisor that is giving you a one-size-fits-all idea, and maybe you're really no different than that person or that person or that person, despite the fact that, like Elias just said, there are so many individual moving parts. You've got this chaotic situation. A wealth advisor is going to be able to help you pull it under control in a Premier Investments and Wealth Management. That's what they're going to be able to help you do. Make your appointment online at premieriwm.com, or you can call 800-383-6590 if you're in a situation like Cheryl is. If you've got opportunity potentially to maybe retire because of a nice inheritance when you're near the age of retirement, it's going to be worth your while. Even without that, talk with your wealth advisor. Give Premier Investments and Wealth Management a call or make your appointment online at premieriwm.com. Let's head over to Jonas for Eugene. In question number 2, I've been managing my own retirement account for years, and honestly, it's done pretty well. The market's been strong, my 401k balance keeps growing, and I'm not sure what a financial advisor would add that I'm not already doing myself. Who typically hires a financial advisor these days? Is it mostly people with a lot of money, or are there certain situations where working with an advisor can make sense even if you're comfortable managing your own investments?
Well, first off, I would say congratulations, Eugene. It sounds like you're comfortable. You're doing a good job managing your own investments. Everything's better in a bull market, right? So if you look at your 401k statements and it keeps going up, who needs a financial advisor? Well, we help people with the areas of financial planning that they're not thinking about, and we use a Premier Vision document to do that. And what that is, Doug, I did one for myself. I asked myself if I were meeting 3 years from today and looking at all my financial stuff, what has to happen for me to be happy with my progress? And my number one answer was my spouse needs to be taken care of. My wife, Jody, is the family CEO. She runs to doctor's appointments all the time. She takes the dogs to the vet. I'm the assistant manager. I'm pretty good about financial stuff. She is not interested at all about financial stuff. She is an uninterested spouse with financial stuff. I have to have a financial plan in place. It has to be on cruise control. I have a history of heart disease in my family. Everything has to be on cruise control if something happens to me. So, Eugene, just kind of a picture. I walked you through what we do for people that you may not have thought about when it comes to financial planning. And that I think that Premier Vision document really helps people. And like Elias said in a previous episode, this is personal finances. It has nothing to do with investments. We have all the same access to all the same investments that anybody else does. And I think that in a general rule, Eugene, you've done a good job. You like managing your own investments. Why people seek out financial advisors and do financial planning is they want the time, knowledge, desire, and they want maybe just a little bit, maybe a research department that they want to hire. Maybe they don't like, maybe they're not interested in reading all the articles.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to get online like I do and watch Warren Buffett or the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting that takes 4 hours. I like that stuff. Not a lot of people do. So you have technology, you have a research department in place. You could be approaching retirement. You could be receiving an inheritance like the last question. Maybe you sold a business. You've been working your tail off all of these years. The last thing, you've been counting every paperclip in your business. You've been hiring and firing people for 40 years. You want to get out of the financial decision-making game and just get a paycheck each month and delegate that to somebody else. You're changing jobs, or if you're newly widowed or widowered, and then you're managing your parents' you're helping take care of your parents and their aging. These are some of the ideas. These are some of the reasons why people seek out financial advice. But I think at the end of the day, it's asking what your vision is and what's most important to you.
Yeah, I really like the way that you explained that because everybody's got their own reasons. It's just like your individual financial plans and the Premier Investment, the Premier Vision document. They're tailored for specific people and their specific situations, and everybody's got their own reason for wanting one. So
I wasn't creepy about it. I wasn't looking in the mirror and saying, self, if we were looking at each other 3 years ago, but I just filled out my own vision document. Sorry, Casey, go ahead.
I think you make a really good point there, Jonas, and kind of what seems to underlie the answer that you gave versus maybe what was in the question. The question kind of presupposes that a financial plan has only investments in it. The only thing that matters when you sit down and do a financial plan is we only are looking at the investments to the exclusion of everything else, and that's just not true. Like a true financial plan is going to go through so many other facets of life, focusing on the ones that actually have an impact, and that we can actually have some sort of a adjustment or change on that actually has meaningful impact on somebody's life. And that's really what the financial planner getting to the heart of that financial plan is, rather than simply, hey, this investment looks good compared over to this one.
Let's go to listener question number 3 for Casey here. Jacob wants to know, I recently reached the age where I have to start taking required minimum distributions from my IRA, but I don't need all of the income for living expenses. My wife and I would ultimately like to support both our favorite charities and our children. Would it make more sense to start directing some of those IRA dollars to charity now and leave the IRA to our kids later? Or should we gift money to our children during our lifetime and leave whatever remains in the IRA to charity?
Jacob, this is an absolutely excellent question. And you know what? Congratulations for making it over to RMD age. You just told me how old you are. I'm not going to get into exactly what that is. But congratulations. You're hitting the back half of the retirement game, it sounds like. So a couple of things that when we take a look at these overall distribution of assets, which is really what you're saying, or the question that you're asking is, what is the most efficient mechanism for me to be able to give money to all these different people and things that are really important to me? And I love the way that you're actually thinking through over on this process. Now, a couple of things that we want to make sure that we're paying attention to is it really depends on the sourcing of that income that you're going to be giving away. When we are giving money away over to individuals, there's a couple things that we need to keep in mind. There may be gift tax due. Now, whether or not you actually have to pay the gift tax is a completely different conversation, but anything over approximately $19,000 per year from one individual to another individual does trigger gift tax that would be due, paid by the donor, so not the person receiving it, but the person who is giving that money, if you go over those thresholds to the individual. Now, again, like I said, there's some ways that you can get around actually having to pay the tax. For example, filling out a 709, which is a gift tax return, accelerating that against your federal estate exemption. That is beyond today's conversation. The other thing that you do want to pay attention to is individual tax rates. And now, when I say this, think about for the various different kids that you have, if you're intending on leaving money to them, how they receive those dollars may have an impact on them. When we give money to charities, whether it's via a non-retirement dollars, or if it's qualified dollars or even Roth dollars, that charity is not going to pay taxes on it regardless of what that account type is or the type of money that goes over to them. That is not true for individuals. So if I give an individual Roth dollars, they don't pay tax on it. Roth dollars are all tax exempt or tax free. If it's a non-retirement asset and there's a step up in basis, then there would not be a tax due on any of those dollars when that asset is sold because of that step up in basis. If I give qualified dollars such as traditional IRA or traditional 401k to an individual, they then pay taxes at their ordinary income rate. So paying attention to the various different tax rates or the tax status of the different accounts is going to be important. This does probably lead me to say it's a little bit more advantageous to give the kids things like Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts, and then leave assets like traditional IRAs over to charities, if that is what you want to do and that carries out what your testamentary or what your underlying wishes are as far as supporting those various different charities. The other thing that you can do, you can do a little bit of both. Now, we call this warm hand giving versus cold hand giving. Cold hand giving is you give everything away when you pass away. So you are deceased, your hands are cold. You don't necessarily get to see the fruits of those gifts. Whereas warm hand giving may be appropriate here. You can also do this out of your IRAs to your various different charities, and that is the most tax efficient mechanism that you can use when it comes to giving away qualified assets or traditional IRA assets. So there is a qualified charitable distribution that you can take money from your traditional IRA, send it directly to the charity. It counts against your required minimum distribution. Now, you can only do up to $100,000 per year underneath this provision. That covers most individuals. Most individuals don't have a RMD north of $100,000. If you do, give us a call. We can help you with that as well. Elias would be very excited about a $100,000.
Sure, I'll help you with
RMD.
that.
Absolutely. But the qualified charitable distribution would definitely be an option of actually not reporting that as income while simultaneously being able to give that over to charity. So you satisfy your RMD and then also don't report that as income on your tax return as well. So a double benefit actually of assisting the charity and then also not having reportable income. So qualified charitable distributions would definitely be a option on there. Again, it really depends on the overall set of circumstances and what it is that you're trying to achieve. So building out some sort of a gifting plan in a situation like this is really what would probably be the most appropriate, and it would really depend on how the assets are titled or how they're set up in terms of those taxable versus non-taxable assets and what the actual registration on those are in order to put that together and really assist you the best way that we could.
And this is where the, again, that personalized plan of Premier Investments and Wealth Management comes in. The whole concept that every time they sit down with you, this is something that's done for you and your spouse, for you and your family, for you and your retirement, for you and the legacy you want to leave. So get in touch with Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Even if you are at this point in life, I would imagine if you go to premieriwm.com, click Get Started, answer the few questions, then that'll help them put together that one-page Premier Vision document for you that will help you align for the what do you call it? Deaccumulation of the funds that you have acquired and you've invested for and earned over the years. Get in touch with them at premieriwm.com. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Team. 800-383-6590 is the phone number. Let's see. Question from Cheyenne. Jonas, I'm going to come to you first, but then I'm going to let everybody else take a crack at it. I'm a self-proclaimed worrier, Cheyenne says. I can't let myself download the app to monitor my 401k because the ups and downs will send me spiraling into panic. But the thought of sticking my head in the sand also leaves me worrying about what surprises I may find when I do check the account. What's a realistic amount people should be checking their accounts just to make sure everything is on track and accurate?
Well, what stands out here, Cheyenne, is you know yourself very well. So great job by not downloading the app and checking your 401k account on a regular basis, because you're not a day trader. It sounds like you're a long-term investor. There's 5 different areas that you can kind of concentrate on when it comes to your investing. I think it's really important. This would be the equivalent of going in for a regular physical and getting your lab work done. You have to do a little bit of lab work. It's time consuming. It raises a little bit of anxiety. You don't know what you're going to find out. But you need to get a result after you get lab work done. These 5 areas are important. You need to make sure that your contributions in your 401k are basically at the level that you like them. They're being contributed. And I think that's pretty easy to do. And again, you're not checking balances when you do this. You can email the payroll person. Are you receiving your full employer match if you have one? That's very, very important. And again, I really, really stress that at least a 10% contribution rate. Is your investment allocation appropriate? What does that mean? That means, is your risk level, have you determined what your risk level is? And are you comfortable with that? And ultimately, how we're able to help a lot of people in 401ks is sooner or later, we've had a 3-year run up in the stock market. Usually in 401ks, people accidentally have accumulated too much money in one fund, and we just show them that, and we just talk to them about rebalancing. Different eggs in different baskets, nothing too special. And basically make sure that your beneficiaries are updated. But Doug, if I were to say something to Cheyenne, if she's got these 5 things in place on her 401k, the best portfolio, in my opinion, is a Rip Van Winkle portfolio that she could just check it 25 years from now if this is her retirement. So go to sleep and just check it 25 years from now. And then she won't be a worrywart at that point.
I call it the Ron Popeil one because it's set it and forget it.
That's right.
Yeah. Elias, what are you thinking about for Cheyenne as she looks at this?
This could be a good time for Cheyenne to potentially call and interview some financial advisors in an investment firm. I think for people that worry, hopefully you can delegate those worries, and hopefully knowing that someone else, a professional office, is monitoring your situation can eliminate some of those worries. And we have plenty of clients that would, this opening sentence of her question, I am a self-proclaimed worrier. I talk to a lot of people that would be a self-proclaimed worrier. So one of our goals with them is to ultimately, you can't eliminate all of that. People that worry are going to worry, but can we shed some light on here's the reasons we're doing this, help build their confidence, and ultimately give them reasons to not worry so much and delegate that part of their life, let us handle it. And I think we're successful with that. So my takeaway for Cheyenne would be maybe you need someone else in your corner other than just the app. If the app is going to cause you all this heartburn, don't download the app.
Exactly. Casey, it's something where I don't look at my bank balance every day. I don't look at my home value every day. Just because we were doing this, I did just up on one of the apps, the idea of how much my home would be worth if we sold it today. I don't pay attention to that stuff. Do people really pay attention to that stuff on a day-to-day basis? Is it the gamification of investing?
Yeah, I think the gamification, like I think what you're talking about on home values, the challenge on those is those are so wildly inaccurate for what you can actually sell for anyway that they're basically irrelevant. Now, that being said, they can certainly show you some various different trends. But I think the same thing is true when you take a look at something like a 401k. We have this, I'm going to call it a misconception that because I have access to the information, I should always be checking it. And it's just not true. I might do a little bit more frequently than 25 years. I think if you're taking a look at this and maybe combine a little bit on here, kind of with what you were saying, Elias, if you're looking at it once a year, you're going to be able to tell whether or not you need to make any adjustments over within that plan. And if you're doing that in the context of a review with a financial professional, they can help you temper your emotions. Now, notice I didn't say the fear, which is what you were talking about, or temper the fear as far as the emotion. I say emotions because they can also help you temper your greed. Because that is something that I think that especially when we've had nothing but up markets, I know I've had some reviews here relatively recently that I have had to say to people, hey, this looks way better than what it probably is going to over the course of a long period of time. Now, I'm not going to complain, don't misunderstand me, but I don't want you to have this false reality that just because we've had this really, really good market performance for the last couple of years, that's always going to be true based off these overall allocations. So, I do think that really when you take a look at what that financial professional should be doing, it should be providing that level of balance to say, hey, times are good, here's maybe some adjustments that we can make, or maybe times are not so good, so here's either the reasons that we're going to make this decision not to change anything, or here's maybe some minor tweaks that we should be thinking about because we have a buying opportunity over because of whatever happened from a market volatility standpoint.
I'll give you a quick one because the word greed pinged you.
Well, I was thinking all investors, if you could picture a pendulum, all investors, the pendulum swings between greed and fear. And those should not motivate your decisions. And you should not make greed-driven decisions. You should also not make fear-driven decisions. And to add to what Casey was saying, right now in the market, for people that are taking withdrawals and living off of their retirement assets, like what more do you need to happen to rebalance and sell and raise some cash in your portfolio?
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're living off this money. But a lot of times that pendulum swings over to the greed and, well, I just want to see how much higher it can go.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a good way to rebalance a portfolio.
No, that's not. And it will rebalance your portfolio. Make no mistake.
Well, yeah, you're either going to do it proactively or it's going to just do it itself at the whims of whatever the market does.
You rebalance your portfolio 6 feet into the ground. See, this is the whole thing with Premier Investments and Wealth Management. They understand that it's more than just picking the investments. It's your ability to deal with these things on a daily and a regular basis. They create a relationship with you. It's your level of comfortability is really what it comes down to, so that they can help you get the most out of the investment so that you can have that money do the most for you in the future, whether it's for you, whether it's for your retirement, your kids' education, you want a legacy, whatever it is. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, premieriwm.com. They've got an absolute ton of stuff you can download online and read to your heart's content. Video blogs, they've got other blogs, they've got these shows that are on radio on a regular basis. Again, premieriwm.com. You can even make your appointment online there or by calling 800-383-6590. That's 800-383-6590. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, named again this year at Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Team. Jordan, for you, Jonas, every time I get a raise, I tell myself I'll save the extra money. 6 months later, it's gone. Couldn't even tell you where exactly it went. What advice do you have for people to recognize lifestyle inflation is happening before it starts affecting long-term goals like retirement?
Jordan, I think it's worth noting that you shouldn't feel bad. It's incredibly common to have lifestyle inflation kind of creep into every household. We really need to put a plan in place. The good news is you're getting a pay raise on a regular basis. We need to put a plan in place that is taking that pay raise and putting it somewhere away before you see it. And one of the things that you can focus on is we really like this idea, Doug. We call it the split the raise approach. So if Jordan's getting $500 a month extra, maybe starting in January, maybe we peel off $200 for retirement, $200 for a home remodeling that Jordan's going to have next year from now, knows exactly, maybe updating the garage or whatever, that $200 goes automatically in there. And then there's just an extra $100 a month that goes automatically into an emergency fund in case Jordan loses his or her job and doesn't get a pay raise. Yeah. So it's all invisible. It's all started. If you're expecting a pay raise, whatever the dollar amount is, it's very easy to earmark that dollar amount and just make it invisible for you, make a strategy. And now with online and ACHs and the computer and everything, you can have your bank zap to a credit union, and you could call your advisor and have Mark Hunter zap your checking account into your retirement. And I think it's really easy to do. Why is your lifestyle having some more inflation? It's perfectly natural. I think everybody is feeling the pinch right now. I really honestly do. Maybe you're getting takeout too often. Maybe you're upgrading your vacations. Maybe you're getting nicer versions of things that you already have. I mean, we look at my family likes to go buy shirts and stuff at Plato's Closet, and they bring home Hawkeye. I love Hawkeye shirts. They bring me home Hawkeye shirts, and they're like, "Guess how much we paid for this? $8." And I'm like, "You're kidding me!" And that's all I wear now is like these $8 Hawkeye shirts. And if they're not bringing me one home, the last thing I'm going to go do is spend $40 for one. So I don't need a nicer version of my Hawkeye shirts. And we talked about the subscriptions and convenience stores. You're paying a premium for groceries there, obviously. And the spending without thinking. We've had show after show about how online purchases, it's just a delirious sense of consumerism that it's just so easy to order stuff. I think I ordered 4 things while we were just taping the show today. So it's just...
Where's my Hawkeye shirts?
It's so easy to do. But those are some things, Jordan. Great question. But zap that pay raise before you have a plan for that pay raise. Split that raise. Retirement, short-term expenses, and then pad that emergency fund. You should be okay.
First time I think we've mentioned emergency fund today. So that's one of the first steps.
You
that's
knew it was coming, Doug.
Yeah. No, it's a great thing because that's something so many people walk away from.
I think there's a couple of things. I'm surprised you didn't mention your good buddy, the Professor Thaler. Because there's a couple of things that he talked about actually in some of his behavioral economics things. And this is one of the reasons, like when we talk about 401ks, like 401ks are so incredibly powerful because it is based off of a percentage of income rather than as a set dollar amount. So when you have those raises, you automatically have an increase in the amount that you're doing from a contribution just because you're doing the same percentage off of a higher dollar amount. So 401ks are an incredible savings mechanism because of that. There are also some other plans, and something I would suggest, Jordan, go see if you have an auto escalation feature tied to your 401k. Mm-hmm. Because if you can automate this and then you can move it off your plate, get it off your plate where you don't have to think about it, and you can automate that process to increase your amount of contribution every single year without having to actively go hit a button to do it, you are much more likely to actually have those good behaviors go through. And what I mean by that, if you have to think about it every single time that you're going to do some additional savings, it is much less likely to happen than if you put it onto autopilot and all you have to think about is, well, I have this little bit of extra and I can go spend it. Even though the net result in both of those two situations may end up being exactly the same, eliminating that decision matrix as much as possible, getting yourself out of your own way, may be an opportunity or a way for you to make sure that you are just continuing to do the right things unintentionally. And I think that's where we see things that happen oftentimes in life even is just this unintentional reaction to things where I'm not being intentional about stuff, and then we have all these other things that end up happening. So if we can actually take our money where we're going to do the right things without us actually having to think about it, we're going to put ourselves into a much better situation compared to if I have to force myself every single month to go and do that. Now, incidentally, I think the government is very well aware of this because this is why we have payroll taxes deducted automatically rather than everybody having to write a check at the end of the year. If everybody had to write a check for Social Security, for income taxes, for all that, we would have a complete and total revolt in this country. But we don't because we have it just automatically deducted via payroll. Now, I probably just tipped my hand on where I sit in my opinion on taxes.
Oh, no. I think that most people are probably like that as well, and it makes sense. The whole thing is that making sure you're doing something intentionally so you don't have to pay attention to it is really a powerful thing.
You put yourself, set yourself up for success. That's really all you're doing. If you have auto escalation features, explore that to see if that's a viable option for you. That's definitely something that I would suggest that you take a look at.
Go to Premier Investments website at premieriwm.com, and you can get started by doing the Premier Vision document. Just click on Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide you the document and a free no-obligation consultation where you are, where they are, over the internet, wherever. 800-383-6590. Make your appointment over the phone as well today. Elias, Gary asks, by the way, how you and your wife, I would imagine everybody and their wife's probably within 4 to 5 years of one another as far as age?
Yes.
Yeah.
8.
8? Wow. Well then, you robbed the cradle. Jeez. Well, Gary he did more than that. He's 66 and still working. He says he wants to retire, but his wife's 55. She's been a stay-at-home spouse for most of the marriage, wants to delay Social Security until age 70 so that the wife at 55, 11 years younger, has a higher benefit if she outlives me. But I'm also worried that relying solely on my 401k from now until then, I could work part-time and minimize the amount we need to take from the 401k or just take Social Security now. Elias, what is your advice? Should I claim Social Security or keep delaying it?
Gary's on the right path here. A lot of times when you have this bigger age gap, we are going to look at, from a planning perspective, delaying Social Security until age 70. And I'll give the listeners the reasons why. So with a married couple, when a spouse passes away, you lose the smaller Social Security check. Now, they've been, I'm assuming, been married long enough where there will be a spousal benefit. So although the wife has been a stay-at-home spouse for a long time, she will have either her benefit or half of Gary's, whatever that amount is. And so in this situation, Gary's thinking, well, I should wait until 70 to get my highest amount because when something happens to me, he's assuming he'll die first because he's older. She will lose her check and keep my check, which is the bigger one. Absolutely the right question to be asking. If I were meeting with Gary, I would need to understand, and I would ask him, you mentioned that you're worried about relying on your 401k funds from now until age 70. So the conversation with me would start, well, what's causing you to be worried about that? Assuming there's enough money in there that Gary can retire, there should not be a problem having a bridge strategy. And when I say bridge for Gary, that means taking him from age 66 until 70, using his investment accounts for income instead of just Social Security. So I would need to understand what's causing the worry about living on the 401k funds until age 70. If it's just simply, well, I don't want to spend them, okay, well, then we can start to have that conversation of here's a bridge strategy to take you to 70, and then we can reduce your income from this, and here's the reasons why you should do it. I think Gary might start to come around to that idea. It's also possible it's a small 401k balance, and the only way Gary can retire is by taking Social Security now. And if that's the situation, you should at least weigh the pros and cons of taking it now versus letting the benefit grow. But you're locking in a smaller benefit at that point. It's also a decision of, okay, well, does your wife really want you to work 4 more years to lock in a higher benefit? Or does she want you to retire now?
Spend a little more time with. Yeah.
Right. And the reality of their situation with an 11-year difference, Gary's going to retire and they'll have, call it 9, 10 years of, those two being able to go enjoy and do all the activities that they want to do. And physically at some point, Gary's going to slow down. So then, but that's a conversation that those two can have on, well, I could wait and then we could do this, or I need to take Social Security for me to retire. Maybe she doesn't want him around the house more. Maybe she wants him, there's all these different scenarios.
But it's nice to have those candid conversations with you. And that's the nice thing about this is that there's lots of stuff online at the website that you have at premieriwm.com, including a guide to Social Security claiming that you can start out on in that primer. But having that conversation so you can fill in sort of the empty spaces in that matrix so you can figure out because there are like hundreds of permutations as far as it comes to claiming Social Security for a couple like this.
There is. So rather than focusing solely on maximizing the Social Security benefit, what they need to do is evaluate how this decision fits into their overall income strategy, tax strategy, and retirement strategy. The goal is not necessarily just the largest Social Security benefit, but I believe their goal will end up being what is the strategy that puts us in the best situation throughout the total retirement, not just today, not just down the road. What sets you up for success through the entirety of Gary's retirement together?
Again, downloadable information on Social Security claiming on premieriwm.com. That's premieriwm.com. You can also make an appointment online. Sit down with one of the folks over here. Question number 7 for Jonas from Kane. Wants to know, every retirement calculator I use assumes my investments will grow 6, 7, or 8% per year over decades. Am I the only one who struggles to believe the market can just keep growing indefinitely? Great question for the resident bear.
Exactly. No, you're not the only one that struggles to believe that your 401k will make a static return of 7 or 8%. What a fantastic question. We've talked about this. I think that retirement calculators are inaccurate because of the volatility in the market. And the data is there. If you look at the S&P 500, which is probably the most popular investment or the most well-known investment in the country right now, it's probably in everybody's 401k that is listening right now. Doug, how many times in the S&P 500 has it finished with an annual return between what people call is a pretty decent rate of return, 7 or 8%? How many times over the last 100? You already know.
0.
No, it's actually, I think it's 9 times right now.
So
I
it's
need to
close.
back
So
check
the past
it.
100 years. Okay.
But if you were to ask somebody simply, what's a decent rate of return on your money? Some aggressive people might say 10 or 12. Some other people like me might say 7 or 8%, kind of like Kane is saying right now. And that's only happened 9 times the last 100 years in the S&P 500. So what is happening then? You've got yourself a roller coaster ride. You have lots of big returns like we've had the last 3 years. The S&P 500 is up somewhere between 70 or 80% the last 3 years. And I would, like Casey said, I would like to see that keep going. That would be fantastic. But the reality is you're going to have volatility the other way. It's kind of like the Jack and the Beanstalk analogy. You're not going to have trees grow to the sky forever. And I think that Elias said this earlier, too, that if you're not looking at a retirement calculator, but you're just focusing on rebalancing, and maybe you like the idea of taking some of your gains over and above what the experts call your cost basis.
Yeah.
I never say that. I just call it cookies in the cookie jar because that's easier for me to understand. If I have 10 cookies in the cookie jar and the cookie jar is overflowing right now with 30 cookies, I'm going to take the other 20 cookies and park them somewhere, put them in the freezer. And that's ultimately how I envision rebalancing right now. And this is something that Kane should probably focus on instead of, and he's on the right track. He's definitely onto something here. Instead of focusing on that 7 or 8% return in the retirement calculator, be suspicious of that. And let's start focusing on, if you believe in rebalancing, let's take your gains over and above your cost basis and start parking them into some different eggs, into different baskets, according, obviously, to your risk level, time horizon, and investment objectives. But great question, Kane. You're on the right track. You're definitely onto something.
I'm going to come and maybe ask maybe it's an upside down question, maybe it's not. But something I would actually ask Kane is, okay, I understand that you're saying the market can't just continue to grow indefinitely, and you give kind of some numbers over off that side. But what leads you to believe that this is not the case? Like, I'm kind of curious what the media inputs are, what the inputs are that are coming in that are maybe suggesting that we don't see future growth. Because realistically, what I think the question is getting at over on here is we're talking about societal decline and societal collapse. Really, because if we're not seeing some form of growth over long term, it does mean that we've got some form of a decline. Now, I don't think we can necessarily predict that, and I am not willing to sit here and bet against the world economy, at least at this point, because we have seen growth, especially over the course of the last century or so. I think even if we take a look at a lot of these things that seem to be these systemic or these endemic threats, take, for example, AI. You take, for example, this discussion that's happened over the last handful of years about the collapse of the dollar. You take a look at a lot of these things where there's usually some sort of doom and gloom. Usually, if you look at the source of that information, you can figure out pretty quickly what they're trying to sell, because they're trying to sell something, whether it is some sort of a fixed product, or whether it's some sort of a precious metal, or whether it's some sort of a doomsday prepping kit. There's a lot of things that may actually be underlying the messaging that's going over on that side. I mean, if we look at the human ingenuity that has actually increased productivity, which really, if you look at what the economy is and what the economy measures, it measures productive output, and it measures ingenuity, and it measures productivity. If we continue to see increases in productivity, if we continue to see increases in economic transactions and increases over in those values, then, I don't necessarily think that we're going to have an immediate collapse here in the next couple of years. That's not to say we're not going to have volatility. And I know that's what you were talking about, Jonas. Like, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility to see some form of a downturn, either in economic output for, temporarily. But if we look over a very, very long time frame, I think it'd be very, very dangerous to just throw our hands up and say we're not going to have any more growth. We've hit our peak, and that the rest of the world is going to be in downward slide from now on into eternity at this point.
You missed one, UAPs. That's the other one.
Oh, yeah. No, the UAPs are going to make us all not believe in God. That's what I saw.
Well, no, and it's just going to make money, irrelevant, and markets irrelevant at that point, too. So that's what I'm hearing.
I had a client, and kind of get over on this doomsday. This doomsday the thing. I have a client that lives over in Delaware, and right around the first Russia-Ukraine tiff that we had happening here a handful of years ago, she called me up and she's all worried about it. And I said to her, I was like, I honestly, like, if you're worried about this over in terms of financial markets, I think you're focusing on the wrong things. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, look at it this way. If Russia launches nukes at us, you're in the blast radius of both New York and Washington and several like a whole bunch of really big cities, but you're not actually in them, meaning that you need to be figuring out how to scrape nuclear waste off your windshield more so than worrying about your portfolio. And so kind of change the context of that conversation just a little bit. But the entire point is that even if we are getting into the situation where it's complete and total annihilation, where the entire financial market is going to collapse, none of this matters. None of this matters at all.
Yeah.
And so I think if we're getting into a situation where what we're trying to decide is, in a situation like that where we're trying to navigate a nuclear attack, I don't think a 401k balance is actually going to be relevant. Now, I'm not saying that means we stick our head in the sand and we don't at least understand and have basic survival abilities. But I just don't think that a 401k balance in a world where something like that were to happen, I don't think it is relevant. What's inside of a 401k or what the next smartphone is.
A somewhat more whimsical question to wrap up the show from Aaron. He says, I'm turning 40 next year, and I have my eye on a watch that costs around $8,000. My spouse and I still have some mortgage debt, but we're saving aggressively and investing more than $60,000 per year. How do you determine when a major luxury purchase is financially reasonable or just irresponsible? Anyone?
I'll start. I thought you guys might jump in there. Here's how. And we've mentioned this on the program before. My first question, and if Aaron was a client, I would know, are your retirement savings goals on track? Or even just, sometimes retirement's too strong of a word. Are you on track to be financially independent, meaning you do not need to work anymore at whatever set date you've decided is important to you? Because that age is different for everyone. And if the answer to that question is, yes, I know when I'm going to be financially independent, then it's not an irresponsible decision. I mean, I guess I could always make an argument if you buy a watch for $8,000, yeah, it's irresponsible. But does that mean it's unreasonable to do? And for some people, they would think, no, that's a great purchase. So it's not just as a smart financial decision or a waste of money, and it's not an all or nothing decision, but to me, it's more, have you earned the opportunity to buy this luxury item?
Ooh, that's a good question.
If you're living paycheck to paycheck and you spending $8,000 on a watch is coming out of your emergency fund, I would tell you haven't earned the opportunity to do it.
What stands out is he's 40 years old and they're saving $60,000 a year. So really, a luxury purchase like this doesn't automatically mean that it's a bad thing when you're on the road to be financially independent, which it sounds like Aaron is. What I would have them look at is just think about this. If you do buy this watch, it probably is not going to be the last one that you buy. And I know that from my friends that have tattoos, they usually don't stop at one. I don't have any tattoos, but this is probably going to be not your first or your last luxury watch. I would probably just start, tattoos, right? do a little bit of research. And I have a person that fixes my watches, and I consider him what do they call him, jeweler,
right?
And I would just kind of determine, if I were Aaron, if I want to get into this business, if that's a lifestyle investment that I want to make, jewelry.
Right.
I want to buy something that I could sell for some value later on in case I need to upgrade it. Go ahead, Doug.
Right in the head, because I know a bit about this area just because I'm interested in watches, and that's once you get above like $4,000, you're talking about investment grade watches. So you're talking about adding another bucket, if you will, to your investment. So it's like, okay, hey, can I do this as an investment? That as an investment. This is an area for investment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say to Aaron, hey, it's a lot better than the vacations that the Everetts go on because, we'll come back with Mickey's ears. But for us, it's different. We have a lifetime of memories. It's on our digital camera in the kitchen. 90% of the pictures are from our vacations.
Right.
So that's our lifestyle investments. This could be Aaron's lifestyle investment. But I love what you said, Doug. I mean, know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Well, I look at this similar to, when is it appropriate to buy a new car? Right now, again, maybe a watch is a little bit different. Maybe it holds value a little bit more compared to what a new car does. But, new cars, in terms of like an investment, it's a terrible investment. I would probably argue, I don't know anything about watches. I'd still probably say that a watch is a terrible investment. Now, that being said, doesn't make it a bad purchase. Because if you can actually withstand, whether or not it's a good purchase or not, whether you can withstand the actual depreciation or the decrease in value, if there is any, if you can withstand that, then I don't necessarily see any big issues or any red flags on this thing. Now, the other thing that I would maybe say, just because you are sending this into a financial program on this, have you talked to your wife about this? Because that, and what I mean by that is it's not necessarily that one spouse is going to necessarily veto, but make sure that you guys are in alignment. Because we want to make sure that if we are doing some sort of a purchase or something like this, that everybody who is involved in that household feels like they are, everybody has some input on it. And I know that's something that we do inside of our household. Like my personal, like as far as like the things that I spend on, I don't spend money on a ton of things. There's a handful of very expensive hobbies that I have, and my wife has veto power. Not that she always exercises it, but she does sometimes rein me in every once in a while, which is probably a good thing. But but making sure that everybody has some form of a say over within that financial household can help to prevent a lot of issues later on. And so I would maybe be my one word of caution on that is just get everybody on board.
Yeah. It's interesting, Aaron, that you talk about this, and this is nice too, because there's, listening to you guys talk about this a lot of times. For some people, this is like, are you kidding me? But for what you all do when you're working with people, it's like, all right, have you prepared enough? If you're saving $60,000 a year, I would imagine you have your emergency fund probably taken care of, and you've got a lot of other things. But you know what? Maybe you don't. Maybe you've been putting the money away, and maybe you're just investing it in whatever you've done. If you don't have a financial plan, get one today. It's critical that you have an idea at 40 years old where you're going with this, because the amount of money that you're going to spend on things later is only get bigger, and you're going to have that question come up 2x, 3x, 5x that $8,000. If you have wealth advisors that have been with you for a long time, like my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, they're going to be able to help you navigate these things. PremierIWM.com, click Get Started, answer the questions. They'll provide the one-page Premier Vision document. They'll make it as complicated as you want so that you can sit there and root through it 150, 200 pages. But it comes in one page, and they'll hand it to you at the end of the meeting. By the way, it's a free meeting. You don't even have to pay for it. They'll come to you, you come to them, or you can do it over the internet. PremierIWM.com. You can even make your appointment online. They've got so much downloadable material and watchable material on that page. Don't forget their social media as well. Make your appointment there at PremierIWM.com or call 800-383-6590. That's 800-383-6590. Premier Investments and Wealth Management 2026 Forbes Best in State Wealth Management Team. Second year in a row they've done that. For Elias Randall, for Jonas Everett, for Dr. Casey Mushrush.
See you, Doug.
My name's Doug Wagner. Thanks for joining us in the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. We'll talk to you again next time.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide specific individualized tax or legal advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal advisor. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and or transaction costs, and does not assure a profit or protect against loss. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Dollar cost averaging involves continuous investment in securities, regardless of fluctuations in price levels. Investors should consider their ability to continue purchasing through periods of low price levels. Such a plan does not assure a profit and does not protect against loss in declining markets. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and/or transaction costs, and does not assure a profit or protect against loss. Consult your tax professional about eligibility to Roth and traditional IRA contributions. Contributions to a traditional IRA may be tax deductible in the contribution year, with current income tax due at withdrawal. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may result in a 10% IRS penalty tax in addition to current income tax. Contributions and earnings in a Roth IRA can be withdrawn without paying taxes and penalties if the account owner is at least 59.5 and has held their Roth IRA for at least 5 years. Forbes' Best in State Wealth Management Teams ranking was developed by Shook Research and is based on in-person, virtual, and telephone due diligence meetings, and a ranking algorithm that includes a measure of each team's best practices, client retention, industry experience, review of compliance records, firm nominations, and quantitative criteria, including assets under management and revenue generated for their firm. Investment performance is not a criterion because client objectives and risk tolerances vary, and advisors rarely have audited performance reports. Shook's research and rankings provide opinions intended to help investors choose the right financial advisor and team, and are not indicative of future performance or representative of any one client's experience. Past performance is not an indication of future results. Neither Forbes nor Shook Research receive compensation in exchange for placement on the ranking. For more information, please see www.shookresearch.com. Shook is a registered trademark of Shook Research, LLC.